thinking your story is disruptive. That's the issue. You think it is when it's really not. The last thing on people's minds is what you want to talk about. Let's look at where you really are in people's lives. Stop pretending you're the most important thing. You can't blame others when your jokes don't work. And in a brand, you can't blame others if your messaging doesn't work. For a long time, as you could tell, have always been an advocate for connecting to popular culture. The probability is highest for virality when you are connected to a moment in popular culture.
As an entrepreneur with a global team, one of my biggest challenges was managing international payments. I was stuck with high fees, slow transfers, and endless complications. Whether it was paying my team in the Philippines or buying products from Japan, I tried multiple banks and services like PayPal, but nothing seemed to work. Then I found Wise. The savings have been huge, and transfers that used to take days now happen in hours. It's fast, simple, and has become a vital part of my business strategy. If you're not using Wise for international payments, you're missing out on a game changer. Click on the link in the description to get started with Wise today. Imagine having to make people laugh on cue where you get one shot and silence means failure. That's where today's guest started. In the high-pressure world of comedy writing, where he learned that attention is everything, and every word has to make people feel something. He took that same understanding of human psychology and turned it into a marketing superpower, creating bold campaigns that cut through noise and connect with people on a real level. Most creatives stay in entertainment. Most marketers play it safe, but not this guy. He walked away from comedy to bring radical honesty and emotional intelligence into brand storytelling, proving that truth and courage sell better than polish and perfection. He's helped brands, global brands, capture attention in ways that move culture and inspire action. If you want to understand how to stand out, connect deeper, and create messages that people can't ignore, this conversation is for you. Welcome to Inspired by Success. I'm Linda Vo, and today we go deep with creative disruptor and cultural intelligence pioneer, Edwin Endlich. Welcome to the show, Edwin.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Linda.
Now, I want to talk about the psychology of attention. You learned in comedy that getting attention isn't about shouting louder, it's about earning it. What do most business owners get wrong about how to grab and keep people's attention today? Because you just mentioned before, you're a CMO of Wish, and I'm fascinated about the psychology of attention because attention is gold these days. And, with all these different distractions and social media, it's so easy to just lose your ideal audience's attention.
Absolutely. And when, I started in television, when I worked at David Letterman, one of the most important things that the juniors on the team, which was me, had to do, which was really understand what was going on in pop culture. What were people talking about today already? And it was our job to kind of come to Dave and his senior staff and say, hey, these are the trends that are happening. These are the conversations that are taking place today. This is what already is going on. Because our philosophy, and was kind of for all of us at the time, was, we have to understand what people are talking about so they could talk about us. And without that sort of connection to pop culture, it was really hard to be disruptive and to break through, because it's always harder to start a whole new conversation versus to enter into a conversation. Just kind of like imagine yourself at a cocktail party. It's a lot easier to sit down and have a perspective of a conversation that's already happening that people go, that's a really good point, versus trying to stop the conversation that's happening at the table and say, guys, I'd like to talk about something else, please. And they're like, who is this guy? So we kind of always want to tap into a conversation that's already happening is a big piece of disruption.
What do most business owners get wrong about how to grab and keep people's attention? Because, as you've worked for different companies, you've worked for boring insurance, people. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say boring, but you've worked for.
No, you can. It's okay. I've got thick skin. I can handle it. Yeah, I think, a big thing that, of course, every marketer makes, and, I am, guilty of this all the time, of just thinking your story is disruptive. That's the issue. You think it is when it's really not. people are going about their lives, and there really isn't about, so whether it's a new detergent that I would help the team at Tide launch for the Super Bowl, or whether it was a new prescription drug that could help with a disease, all the way to a life insurance policy to someone young, everyone at the company believes this is the most important thing that's going on in America today, or around the world, when really it's the last thing on people's minds is what you want to talk about. So that's why we always sort of look for, uh, you know, where conversations are already happening and how can we weave ourselves into those. That's where real disruption happens. And so we've seen it a bunch in the past few years. So whether something happens in popular culture, and then a brand jumps right onto it with an interesting perspective, those are the disruptive moments in culture that happen. And that's when a really small challenger brand can really do something big, is the more connected it can be to a moment in time and a moment in culture.
Yeah, when I think about it, now brands do that a lot. They jump on things. Um, as soon as something goes viral, they jump on it, and that viral thing could be not a good thing. So remember the super, what is it? The no, the concert where the
Yeah,
CEO
yeah, yeah.
like got
The
the
Coldplay
cheek.
concert, and yeah, and so these executives were there, and the company decided to jump onto that and put out a viral video the next week with a celebrity spokesperson like of Gwyneth Paltrow involved, and it was brilliant, and it was great, and it was really smart, and it was turned around quickly, and it took advantage of a conversation that company would have never gotten the buzz and the attention that it has now, with a budget that was pretty small compared to what they got out of it.
Yeah, you got to make your marketing dollars work for you. But you mentioned attention. Okay, so I'm curious to know what attention really means. Because you spent your whole career studying what makes people care, and at its core, what attention is really all about. And so, how should entrepreneurs think differently about attention in general?
I
Because
think,
even viral, sorry, forgot to mention, like the first 3 seconds counts. That's everything has to be these days attention grabbing, especially in the first 3 seconds. Is with low attention spans. We've all got fish memories now and can easily just scroll away. So for me, I have to make it count in the first 3 seconds. But what's your advice and thoughts on attention and what it really means?
yeah. I think, in today's world, I do believe we're moving away from the mantra of shorter is better and faster is better. And it has to be within the first 3 seconds, first 1 second. You need to, yell your brand names. And I feel like consumers, probably after 2015 till now, so that's 10 years, have been served up shorter and shorter content, and branded content has also gotten shorter. So really, at this point, most commercials are just a shout at you, uh, of the brand name in the first 3 seconds. They just kind of yell, like who they are and what they can do. That actually, like brands who are more subtle and more, have a little bit of swagger in the time they take to tell their own story. I actually think those are having a moment right now. So I believe a lot of times how we define attention needs to be broader than what it is. I feel like for too long, attention has always meant faster, louder, more bright, a bigger logo. That's how you get attention. And I actually don't think so anymore. I actually think, we've seen a generation coming up, that is defying what we believed they would be like. For so long, we had said that the next generation was going to be less religious, less conservative. We thought they would flock to cities more. We thought all these things. We thought their attention spans were getting smaller. We thought they were so we kept designing kind of marketing messages for what we believed this new generation was going to act like. It's actually not turning out the way we thought it was. They are actually not, who we believed they would be, meaning anyone under 25. I actually think they do have a longer attention span than we give them credit for. I think it's just how we tell that story has got to change.
What brands do you think are actually doing it right these days, and what makes them do it? Like, why would you, can you give me an example of a brand that's actually doing it right, and what's working for them?
Yeah, I think, that brands that integrate themselves into, content deeply. So whether it's, the Coors brand for Cobra Kai, was integrated really deeply into kind of the storyline of that show. And so I really felt, because I love that show, I was like, brilliant job. That's so great. So I believe the four seasons, and like all of the conversation of White Lotus on HBO happens at their properties, and it's subtle, but everyone seeing it goes, "Where is that? Where is that hotel?" And finding out it's been the same properties, same company properties every season, is such a calling card for them. That kind of gives a little bit more, to me, cultural currency, then they had a great commercial, if that makes sense, or they had a great Subway ad. I feel like people want to see things organically, uh, and a little bit more patiently and thoughtfully. So those are the brands that I look at and go, interesting, because they are where I am and not making it worse. Meaning, like, I think we're used to companies disrupting your television show to shout. That's what they do. And so when a brand doesn't do that and is just participating in the story, I think there's a big market there that we're going to see more and more and more of.
It's evolving as well. And you've done like laughter, so and comedy. So I want to talk about from laughter to loyalty and how you mix comedy and marketing because both of them rely on timing as well and truth. What lesson from comedy do you still use today when it comes to building trust um, with an audience or a customer?
Yeah, I think that, you know, everyone who's been through comedy has always been told, that this is a challenging time, and what you can and cannot say is holding back your messaging, and how good you could be is only as good as the audience lets you express yourself. And I learned in comedy that's not true. And I learned that you can also apply that to branding and marketing, meaning that, a lot of times, comedians believe that, the world is holding them back from being able to tell the jokes that they want to tell because it's not politically correct, or it's just not going to be seen well, or they're going to get canceled if they do that. And I actually don't. I actually think that's not true. That's just people who can't write funny stuff use as an excuse on why they're not that successful. And I believe that brands sometimes feel the same thing. That the reason their brand's not catching on in culture or going viral is because the world's not allowing them to tell their story right. That somehow these external forces are the reason why you're not breaking through. That's not true. You just need a better story, and you just need a better storyteller. And so I think it's a lot about kind of, what I've learned in comedy was you can't blame others when your jokes don't work.
Mm.
And in a brand, you can't blame others if your messaging doesn't work.
Yeah, and you mentioned storytelling too, because I'm curious to know about that. How can brands adapt, like for the brands these days that don't use successful storytelling? Do you know how to like? What would you recommend a brand do in terms of where to start in order to tell their brand story authentically, and also if you know any tips on how they can go viral?
Oh, well, the first part's easier than the second part. In terms of really understanding your story, I definitely don't think that brands spend enough time really putting themselves in the context of their customer, we talk about context a lot when we talk about storytelling, in terms of where exactly are you showing up in your customer's life, and a lot of brands assume that they are the center of their customers' lives. So I think Starbucks is seeing that right now, where they've had this giant campaign all around getting back to Starbucks and really making Starbucks that third place. And they've shut down all of their or discontinued a lot of their quicker, simple quick stop and mobile ordering only locations, so that they could focus on a more long-term commitment from people coming in and out. And what they've realized is that that's actually not all people want. People don't really think about going and spending their day at Starbucks all that much. There's a small group of people who do, but the average person just wants a great cup of coffee and to leave and go home. And they don't want to sit there at Starbucks all day. They don't have time. That's not their lives. And I think a lot of times brands don't really kind of see the context that their brand fits in their life. And Starbucks right now is course correcting their brand strategy from this heavy focus on everyone needs to sit for 3 hours in a Starbucks, to maybe there is a balance of that very quick, come in and go, get you in and out, because that's what the customer wants. And also appealing to people who want to sit and have a local coffee shop experience. I'm not a coffee shop person. I want to get my coffee and leave. And so I feel like a lot of times they didn't have the context of my story when they were designing their marketing and their branding. So that's my big, ask of clients when they look to start their storytelling, strategy, is let's look at where you really are in people's lives and stop pretending you're the most important thing. And then I would say advice to go viral is always, something that changes every year. Someone has a different philosophy or strategy. For a long time, as you could tell, have always been an advocate for connecting to popular culture. That is going to be your first and most, probably, the probability is highest for virality when you are connected to a moment in popular culture. That is less, odds are in your favor because it's really a gamble. And you almost have to think of it like a casino. And you're looking to play the game with the best odds. So if you're just sitting there making a commercial about your brand, you are playing at the slot machine. It's just maybe once every year or so something hits. And you don't want to be playing that game. You want to be playing at like the blackjack, a baccarat table, the table where the odds are in your favor, that people are going to see what you're, trying to express and connect with it and give you their attention. And I believe that the games with the best odds are connect to popular culture, connect to the voices that are happening in popular culture, not being afraid to talk about things that are happening in real people's lives, not feeling that you have to shy away from big conversations. Yeah, that's kind of that's where my head is at today.
And what if there's so much competition out there as well with your brand? If you just say you've got a brand and there's so many, different similar brands out there, how does a brand stand out and just, tell their unique brand story, but also stand out? Because in what I'm doing, I've got a lot of competition, but I guess like the storytelling is unique to me. But how does a brand stand out when there's so much competition out there?
Yeah, I think it's always, there are some, the fundamentals always say, what is your, the things that set you apart, and really try to own those and highlight those and make those part of your story, that you can't be playing in the same sandbox as everybody else. So you really have to look at the competitive landscape and say something different. So whether if you have a podcast all the way up to if you have a car to sell, every car can go fast. But what exactly is it about your car that's unique and different? That's a unique selling proposition, the USPs, which is, very traditional sense of how people look to differentiate themselves in the market to stand out is really always looking to find that story that's unique and different. But I also think look for a different way to tell your story. And I think that's actually how I got into my career, is that I was coming from TV and comedy, and YouTube had just launched, and brands were coming to New York and LA production companies looking for writers who knew how to write short films, which is what they were calling YouTube videos at the time, were just short films. And they were really taking advantage of a medium that was connecting with people. And I think a lot of brands today tend to be followers in mediums versus a risk taker in mediums. So whether it's something like Substack, how many brands are there right now? How many brands are in the VR AR space right now? How many brands pulled out of the metaverse? How many brands are in stablecoin today and doing something interesting in that space? Where are the sort of where are the edges of exploration that you could push your brand and your storytelling? And are there new frontiers out there that no one's gotten to yet? And take advantage of it and do a test, see what you can do as opposed to trying to wait for everybody else. I remember at Procter and Gamble, TikTok was a children's music platform, back when it first started. And many of us who were working in marketing for P&G were laughed out of every conference room if we said, we should do something on TikTok. Uh, and I think that's true for almost any platform out there. The early adopters were told that's a kid's place to be. That's not appropriate for our brand. And then they wait until it's too saturated of a market to then finally say, I want to do something in that space. Now every CEO says, I want to do an Ask Me Anything, like on Reddit. And that space
Oh.
has been kind of co-opted a lot for years with that. But I bet people in your office have been telling you to do that for the past 6 years. Do it early before it becomes everyone's already there and doing it. So that's where I always am looking for those new frontiers.
So it's all about taking those risks and trying things out early. I always, when I was in the corporate world, I was always like, it was always the smaller companies that were willing to take the risk because there was just too much red tape and bureaucracy with the big companies to try. Because I was at TikTok as well, and I was trying to get brands to advertise, and goodness me, it was a mission with the big brands. And Disney, for one, they're safe, brand safe, and so that took a while. And yeah, unfortunately, I left. But just the process of trying to get them on board took months, But
Of course.
do you feel like are there any new mediums or platforms that brands are still able to jump on early now? Like, what are your thoughts on any mediums that not aren't saturated yet?
I think there's, going to be if we, the answer should always be dismissed when I say it, if that makes sense. Like anything I say, you'll say that's dumb. But I believe in the AR, like wearable space. I think any brand that's not thinking about how they're going to show up in the augmented reality future, where we all have a display in our glasses that are popping up and giving us information throughout the day. Where is your story in there? If you're not thinking of that today, you're behind. I think many people have already missed the artificial intelligence wave of if you are still talking about how should we get in on that, you've missed it in a way. But I would definitely be pushing for kind of how your brand will show up in probably, I say more of the kind of like the personal operating system world, which will be when everyone's phone is going to have a personal assistant on it that I trust, who knows me very well, has access to, anything I give it access to. Every brand is going to have to convince that operating system to talk to me. But so whether it's a bank, if I'm looking for a new savings account, my personal operating system is going to negotiate rates with my bank. I'm not going to do that. And so, how are banks thinking about how they're going to work with an AI operating system in the future is really where I would be pushing brands to be thinking about. What happens when your customer is an AI and not a person? You have to convince them, meaning the AI, to buy you. And so, what features do you have? How well do you talk to AI? How sophisticated is your API, meaning, your language that you speak on your website or in your app? How well does that connect to ChatGPT when they're pulling information? And if it's not optimized for them, no one will ever see you.
Jeez, that's so forward thinking. Like, I love that you've gone so far ahead. But then the advancement of AI, it's going to happen because, like, even now, I use ChatGPT. I have someone that's basically my everything. I do have a normal system, but it's going to keep getting better, and it's just amazing things that it can do. But like, that is such an interesting, powerful perception and a great opportunity as well. So yeah, the AI part, I'm excited about it, and what we could do with it. But I didn't know that brands can jump on it and do something there. Are you doing anything like that now? Or?
We're at Wish, we as like a fintech, we've really started to kind of go in a few areas. One is to get really immersed in stablecoin, meaning, how can our product be utilized within stablecoin wallets, which we have a product now that just adds a free life insurance policy based on how much you've invested in stablecoin. So let's
Wow.
say you have $10,000 invested in stablecoin, you get a $1,000 free life insurance policy for that. So really kind of jumping into seeing if this gets adopted, can we be already there, starting conversations, building those relationships, having those partnerships already set up for when things move forward. I think a lot of brands hold back on trying those things or setting those things up because what they're missing is not just the business opportunity, but it's also you're missing the chance to establish those partnerships early, and that's what we want to do. So that's a big piece of our work here. We've developed a chat GPT, like a custom GPT that you could talk to about life insurance and finding out what you may need for a policy. We have a custom GPT built for that, and we had built that. I think app, the GPT App Store had been open for I think like 13 days before we had something out there. So it's always just good just to test, see, is it being used? How are people using it is just important. So I always say, to your point, into being a smaller, scrappy fintech allows us to take some risks and move pretty fast versus being an established company who needed, a million approvals to do some of these things. But I think companies who want to act like a startup have to act like a startup.
Mm, yeah, and you get in first, and it's such an advantage if the risk that it's a bit of a gamble because you're trying new things, and then if something hits, then it's definitely going to be rewarded because you got in early. So yeah, I'm curious to know, you built campaigns around uncomfortable ideas in your time, and that make people lean in instead of running away. And how do you know when an idea is powerful versus when it's pushing too far?
I always think like, what's appropriate to talk about of all the stories I have in my brain. But let me tell an appropriate story. Is it okay, Linda? And you could edit as needed. We'll go with that.
Okay.
But so I was doing the marketing for KY, which is a lubricant in the sexual health space. And they had a new product that was for men who wanted to extend the time that they could participate in sexual activity. So,
Relation. Yeah, I was gonna.
yeah, exactly. So, and what we found was that there was an insight in there that when we were holding focus groups, we, put out an ad for men to come and talk to us about this issue, so that we could better understand how men think about, the confidence they have in that area of their lives, and people would sign up. They would come into the interview and they would then say, that's never happened to me ever. I've never had any issues with how long I've lasted. Everything's fine. And we were like, okay, but yes, you filled out a form saying the opposite, and you came and you did all this stuff, and like so we realized that there was this huge barrier there to talking about this. So what we did was say, what if we created a vending machine in New York City that had really great stuff in it, from MacBook computers. I even think we had car keys were in there to a car.
Wow.
And the vending machine did not take money. It took volume to get things. And you had to proudly yell that you've had problems in bed before. And if you admitted to having it loud and clear, the vending machine would dispense a really great prize. So depending on how loud you yelled and how clear that yell was. And so we had people in New York, walking past this machine and participating in it, and it was just hilarious and incredibly well received. And it really did kind of like open up a topic that people weren't really talking about, and really leaning in to an uncomfortable topic, making the uncomfortable part of the topic part of the campaign, and really leaning into, if there's an uncomfortable side to this, make that part of your story, and have fun with that, and give people a reason to have a entrance into the conversation in a way that they may not have ever thought there was going to be. And so that was a big one. And I can do one more. Can I do one more?
Wait. Before you go do that one more, I just want to know more about that campaign because it sounds like an
Sure.
awesome campaign. Was there people behind just monitoring, and were men just screaming out? What were they like? I have premature ejaculation, or what is?
Yes. If you yelled that exact phrase, you would get something. If
Oh my
like, yeah,
god!
so it's like if you yelled like, I've had premature ejaculation, very loud, certain tiers of prizes would come out. And the machine actually worked. It actually was hearing and, dispensing prizes based on volume. And
A
yeah,
human that determined who was the loudest. It was just the machine did that.
the
And
machine did it. Yeah.
wow, what a campaign! And
Yeah,
was
so
it
I think
successful?
one group, like they got 3 or 4 people together to
Yeah.
yell, and that's how they got the biggest prize. And I was like, hey, listen,
Wow.
they figured out a hack, fine, they win.
That's interesting. Anyway, tell me the story, the other campaign. These are fascinating. I should look that up. Is that on YouTube? This campaign?
Yeah, yeah, I can send it to you.
What if people want to look for it? What's it called? Vending machine.
It, uh,
KY
it
jelly.
is, yeah, it was called the KY Duration was the product.
Mhm.
And so if they look up KY Duration on YouTube, they will likely, one of the first 1 or 2 videos to pop up will be this video.
Okay, I'm going to look for that.
And then the other thing, and then this one I think can be quicker and easier, but there was this fad that was going around maybe 5 or 6 years ago of kids were eating Tide Pods. Remember
Ah,
this at all? Like it was big in America for some reason, where kids were challenging each other to eat a
mm,
laundry detergent pod
mm, mm.
and recording it on social media, of them getting sick and spitting it out and throwing up was kind of half the video that would be viral, would be all about that. And we and so I was working for Tide at the time, and they wanted to do something around how do we get kids to stop doing
Mm,
this. And
mm.
it was always one of those challenges of saying, well, as soon as you tell a teenager to not do something,
They can do it.
they're going to do it. You know, so again, it was kind of like a different type of uncomfortable conversation. It was like, we don't want
Yeah.
to tell kids to stop doing something because that never seems to work. So, what we ended up doing was working with one of our athletes in football, so Gronk, who was a very famous football player, but known for being a little dumb. uh, and we worked with him to do a whole kind of short film about how even he knows this is a dumb
Oh,
idea.
wow.
And just very simple, and just him being like, not gonna do it, no, no, no. And like even Gronk knows that you shouldn't eat those.
Mm,
And it just went really viral, and it was on all of like the late night shows. They were showing clips of the commercial, and it was so a really big success for us. But again, it was leaning into a cultural conversation that was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for parents, it was uncomfortable for teens, it was very uncomfortable for the brand to be talking about, you know, a health scare that was happening in America. So I think uncomfortable can mean a bunch of things to a brand. It could be something like KY, where they wanted to talk about something uncomfortable, and then in Tide, it was a brand that was brought into an uncomfortable conversation.
mm. Wow, that's powerful. And it's just to be able to think a different way and a different perspective. Did you come up with that idea, or how does it work when you creative people get together in a company and think of these concepts? Because do you brainstorm ideas and just from there vote on? Because that's a brilliant idea to do that, because not many brands want to touch the uncomfortable, or and some
Mhm.
brands do it wrong as well, like they jump on viral things that are not positive, and it does hurt their brand. But I'm just curious to know, yeah, how do you come up with these ideas? Is there, especially if for businesses and other brands that want to, think outside the box when it comes to creativity, how can you give us any advice on how to do that?
I think, you know, for those, you know, two ideas, they were all, you know, from a creative team at a marketing agency. So I would say don't discount that that is a skill set that people are trained to do, and to uh, not think as an entrepreneur or something there's something wrong that you're not able to come up with these ideas. Or if you ever feel like, man, I wish I had had that idea. To me, that's like as similar as saying, if someone says I had a successful surgery, you saying, I wish I had done that surgery for you. Like, no, like, you're not a surgeon. You don't, it's okay. Like, we're kind of okay with every other profession uh, being, you know, in charge of their job. But creativity is really difficult to sort of give to creatives because we all think we're the creative type. So I would just say always respect that there are creative professionals out there, especially in this age of AI, where creative professionals feel more under threat than in any time in our history. I would probably say the Spanish Inquisition, and now maybe I would say we're probably the two scariest times to be an artist. And I think I always say for brands, to not discount artistry and the people who do it. So those two ideas that I shared with you were done by professionals who came up with these ideas in a brainstorm, packaged them up, sold them really well, came up with how they would pull it off quickly and easily and affordably for our clients, did it. But those two ideas were done within 3 weeks from start to finish. The Tide piece was done in 90 hours, I think, from the idea to it launching. And so I think that's also where the kind of, you know, embracing of the professional side of creativity allows you to be quick and nimble and move. I think we've gotten a bad rep for a long time of that, you know, working with creatives is a slow, expensive process. And AI is going to change that now. Now it's going to be cheap and fast and good. But we've always said you can't have all three of those. You have to pick two. And AI is still part of that discussion. AI does not give you all three. So I think that that's my rant. I will get off my horse now.
Do you leverage AI? Do you leverage AI though? Because I think it is like for smaller brands that are limited with budget or whatever, and they or even bigger brands. I think just getting different perspectives as well, as long as you have good
Mhm.
prompts. But do you leverage AI? What are your thoughts on that? And I know that a lot of people would be feeling um, concerned about security and the stability of their careers in creatives. But what's your piece on that?
I think, I use AI every day. I have multiple, tiers of tools, and I follow a bunch of thought leaders and influencers in the AI space to find out new tricks and hacks in order to use. So whether it's to help me organize my day, help me to be more productive, help me to be, even just a better person, I actually do think AI has done a lot of good for me.
Mm.
And so I definitely advocate for it. But what I would say is that I invest a lot of time in it as well. If I'm looking to use AI as a personal assistant, I have to give it an hour of my time in the morning to catch it up on what I want to do today. And I think a lot of people are using AI and expecting it to design your whole day in one prompt, in one go. You're going to get a perfect response and get everything you want. And I think people are too quick with AI right now. So I use it, but I really try to be thoughtful, and I really try to invest time in my conversations with AI, because that's where I think you get the best results. And I think people who just type in, I have this brand, I want three creative ideas for a commercial, and then hit enter. And one, they're disappointed in the results that they got,
Yeah.
or the information is wrong that they get, the AI hallucinated and it's not right, or they just take the three ideas they got and think they're amazing and walk those into a production company, and a production company has to break it to the brand. Three companies have already done that. That's where the AI got that idea, is
Yeah.
because it had to know that idea existed. That's not an original idea. Your competitor is what it learned that from. And so a lot of times that happens if you're too quick with AI. You have to spend a lot of time and have deep conversations and invest and treat it like an employee. How long would you spend with them in the morning to catch them up on the day?
Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
so. I believe, yeah, because everybody that just uses AI just as a quick fix, you can tell it's AI, and so you have
Hmm.
to refine your prompts and keep on. Like I heavily rely on AI day to day for everything. A lot of the things, even when it comes to the podcast, heavily, and so, but I just have to keep refining and refining and refining because I'm not happy with it. I don't want it to sound like AI. I want it to sound in my tone,
Hmm.
and the research as well. But we all make mistakes. But I definitely agree that you have to take the time to put into it and put into the prompts to make it work as well.
Yep, 100%.
Now, I want to talk about when you're doing marketing campaigns, right? There's data and there's gut feel. As a creative, what are your thoughts on mixing creativity with data in a way? You do that already, but how do you do it? That most people don't do that. So, how can business owners use data to guide decisions without losing their instinct or their voice and losing that, the gut feel, the creativity part of it?
Yeah, I think, that's another aspect that AI is changing our lives, is, the ability to run research utilizing some of these tools. So whether it's the deep research prompts on ChatGPT, the research features of Perplexity, the research features of Gemini are getting better and better and better, to where you are getting access to some really great data out there that can be personalized to your business or to your industry faster and easier than ever before. People are saying this is also a dangerous time for consultancies like Bain and McKinsey and Forrester, who had really, built a legacy of, deep brand research was, a very core part of their business. And now, with, a good pro plan of an AI, you could get pretty close to some of the quality of research that's coming through from some of those consulting firms, especially for smaller businesses who were never able to do the research that that a consulting group could have done. No one had the $1 million to hire a research firm to hold focus groups, to go door to door, to do all these things. But tapping into Grok, which is controversial to begin with, which is the AI of the X platform. But with that having, that is the only research platform that has real-time access to all what was formerly Twitter till now. All of that data, all of that human truth exists in that platform.
Wow.
You now have access to a research platform of AI that can pull everything from what was Twitter and analyze it and provide you with deep insights on what people are talking about, how people have talked about buying a home, the strategies people have used, the challenges people have. Just using home buying as an example, a platform like Grok can give you the quantitative research that would have cost you $1 million 10 years ago can now be done within an hour utilizing an AI platform. And I hate to give Elon Musk a lot of credit, but that's one of the platforms that I actually do think there's something there. Oh no.
Look into that because yeah, if it's real time and it's got all these opinions and I don't know, that would be a definite tool to use for research. I never thought of that because everyone sticks with the standard Claude or ChatGPT. Yeah, so I don't know. That's definitely
Yeah, and
something
I
to look
think
at.
that soon we'll start to get a little bit better at knowing which platform to go where. Yeah, it's like we don't really quite have like the car brand
Mm,
uh, knowledge yet where we know what you want a Mercedes for. And I
yeah,
think a lot of people are buying Mercedes, which is, let's say, the ChatGPT Pro plan for $200 a month. A lot of people are buying that don't need it. Just like there are a lot of people who buy a fancy sports car and they don't drive it. But I feel like we need probably another year or two to quite figure out, which platforms are best for what purpose. And knowing that if you're a researcher, you're going to know that you can choose between Perplexity and Grok. Those are the only two that you need to choose between. If you are looking to write, your choices are, it's not really even a choice. It's going to be Claude. It's going to be, the newest platform of Anthropic. And what they're doing is just above everybody. So I think more people will know what people who are obsessed with AI know now. But I think that'll also help entrepreneurs and brand leaders will be knowing which platform is best for what, so that you're not, using ChatGPT to do something. ChatGPT is not that great at that.
mm. Do you use Grok yourself? Because like I would have thought a lot of the people that are on Twitter, X, sorry, you know, they have different opinions. I used to use it, and then when I scroll, it's just different opinions of. Yeah, I don't use it as much. I know that when I get off that platform, I'm feeling a bit down because there's just a lot,
Yeah,
But it used, yeah, it could be good, but do you think? I wonder if that would sway the research because of the voices on there. Do you know what I mean? Unless people are sharing.
100%. It 100% does.
Mm.
And I think that you always, which starts a whole other conversation. We could have a whole podcast just on that, on just,
Far right, far left, and then if it's swaying more on the right side, then it's going to sway the research. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's really where you want to be careful with what you are researching, and if it can be biased, it will be.
Yes.
So you have to know that going in, and then you also have to just be prepared to know um, that your platforms will always have that human truth to it. It'll always come with perspectives and bringing in the negative along with the positive. And you have to spend time and sort through that. It's like we said, just taking something at face value after your first research prompt, don't do it. Spend
Mm.
time. It used to take months. Give it an hour. Stop thinking it should be immediate and be like in a minute. Give it an hour of your time. Go through it. Check the sources. Be sure it was correct. Things like that are critical in today's world.
Yeah, that's powerful too. What What are you excited about most in the future? What's to come? What excites you? Whether that be technology, AI, what advances that are you super excited about?
I am always kind of mixed every day with going excited and scared, excited and scared. I think we're all on like that roller coaster with technology right now that sometimes we will. Um, I am most excited about. I love a wearable tech. I think that's going to be a really big impact on our lives. I have an Aura ring, which I really enjoy, which
Is
is
it
a
what is
health
that?
tracker.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And so this is really what Apple and Apple Watch is for most people. It's this ring. But now I don't have to take it off, and it lasts a week before I have to charge it again. And it gives me even more data than Apple Watch. So
Is it like
uh,
tracking your blood and your heart, everything like the health, your health?
everything it tracks
You sleep,
everything. Yeah, sleep, my stress, nutrition, uh, oxygenation, all that
even your
stuff.
stress as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is kind of scary. Uh, but I think, how technology will be connected to our lives, even physically, is getting more and more interesting to me. Like we're seeing with the new generation of, glasses with like all the teams at Meta like in Ray-Ban are doing some really great work. I know that Warby Parker will have a wearable soon, and that'll be interesting. I think any brand that has heritage in a wearable space will soon have some technology in it. I keep saying if Hermes does not have a wearable inside a scarf in the next 5 years, I'll be shocked. If like I think any brand, I think like any watch brand will have to have a wearability technology component as part of it in the next 5 years. So if you just think about the things that are on you,
Mm.
likely in the next 5 years, that thing that's on you now will have sensors on it. So whether it's your sneakers are going to have some sort of wearable tech in it. Your socks will have tech. Your hats, everything. And that's kind of exciting to me to know, like, I wonder what that'll do for us
Mm.
and what information it'll need.
All that data it's going to store about us too. Goodness, Then I just think about, wow, that means a lot of data centers are just going to just opportunity right there. And the amount
Yeah,
of wearables and the data that you're going to need to store, that's an opportunity right there.
100%.
Is there any key message you'd like to leave with our audience? Anything that I've missed?
Uh, no, this was really, really fun. I think you know, I think we will be entering in a new phase of data privacy in the next few years that I think people are going to have to be really invested in and be aware of. And so I'm excited to talk about that next time.
Awesome. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, you could find. the great work that we're doing at Wish, which is the fintech that I work at, is over at wysh.com. And then you could always find me at Edwin Endlich on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, if you've enjoyed the conversation, please do me a favor and hit that follow button. And if you're listening on YouTube, tell me what resonated with you and which campaigns did you, if you've heard of these campaigns, and what's a key takeaway for you. So thank you so much for your time, Edwin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Linda.